Hi, and welcome to the Career Cafe podcast brought to you by Talia High Desert Academy. My name is Raymond.
And I'm Elisette. Today we are interviewing two individuals that work in the film industry. Please welcome DJ and Danielle.
So, how did the both of you get started in the movie production field?
So I actually went to film school. I went to New York Film Academy, did a one-year certificate program, specifically for like filmmaking and film production. Graduated in 2011 and just started getting on sets and producing stuff and just kind of been doing that ever since.
Cool.
And mine was the same, only I didn't go to college. But when he went to college, I got on his sets and started working on all the student films that he was a part of. So I did the sets and the set dressing and all that, and just sort of got into it, did more and more, and figured out I liked it.
Comes to you eventually.
Yeah.
Then there's a lot of roles in the movie production field. What does your role fit? Like, what do you guys do?
So as a producer, what I do is I'm in charge of production from start to finish. I will find a script or find a director or develop a concept or a story myself. And then if I'm not going to direct it, I find the director. And then from there we find the talent or the actors and we find the crew, and I'm in charge from that point all the way through when the film is actually finished.
And I will start usually in pre-production. I design the look of the film along with the director and the cinematographer. So I will make sketches and figure out what they want the film to look like and what they want the mood to be. And I'll either dress locations that already exist or create sets and props to help tell the story. So.
Nice. Cool.
Oh, it's my turn. Oh. Wait, I thought we were supposed to cut after. No? Okay. Have you always wanted to be a film producer, DJ?
Yes. So I started making short films when I was in high school. Kind of didn't really think that it was going to be a viable career. You know, when you look at the film industry, everything's so glamorous, and you see movie stars and everything. It's like, how do you get into that? So I actually, out of high school, I actually went into the military. I was in the Army National Guard for about 4 years. Got out of the Guard and then used my GI Bill to actually go to college and go to film school. So it was one of those, it's like, I kind of knew what I always wanted to do, went in the military, and then after that, you really kind of figured out, you know, like, hey, this is actually something that's tangible.
Can you share with us your journey in becoming a film producer?
Sure. So when I got out of film school, the first thing that I did was I produced a trailer for a feature film. We did that over a couple of days. You know, tons of locations, really complicated stuff to shoot. It was a lot of fun, and then that's really kind of when I figured, like, hey, I really like doing this. And so it was just, you know, meeting, you know, a director, and then like, hey, you know, can you produce my thing? And it's, hey, I'd love to. And you just, you know, you meet somebody on a set, you know, and then they're like, hey, can you produce mine? And, you know, it kind of just goes over.
And it kind of just comes back.
Yeah, it kind of snowballs, and you're like, you know, you look back and you're like, oh, I've done, you know, so many films over the course of a couple of years. So it's a lot of kind of networking and, you know, meeting people as you go
experience.
Was there any high education involved in your process of becoming a film producer?
Yeah, just film school. And I didn't go to a traditional, like, 4-year college. I didn't do any general ed. The school that I went to is New York Film Academy. It's a trade school, so they have you hands-on cameras, like, your first week that you're there. So it was really nice to kind of jump right in and just develop that knowledge over the course of the program.
It's a lot better than probably just sitting in class and trying to answer questions.
Yeah, because some film schools, like, you don't even touch a camera until like your 3rd year, which is great because it's a lot of film theory, but a lot of what the industry entails is like actually getting on sets and
experience,
learning how they work and learning the lingo and how to actually function in the professional environment.
What are your responsibilities in creating the film?
So as I said before, like with a producer, I'm in charge of everything. So I'm one of the things that I do is actually help guide the director on what their vision is.
Like goal for the movie.
Yeah, and like if they're, let's say they're having trouble like kind of figuring out what the end of the film needs to be or what they want it to be, I will step in and kind of help them figure that out so that they can have a clear, consistent of like what their vision is, and then also kind of setting up everything around them, all of the crew, and making sure that they have the tools that they need to actually like do their best work.
What does a day in your role look like?
Usually starts out very, very early. Sometimes I'm up by like 4 or 5 a.m. Usually call time to set, which is when you arrive, can sometimes be as early as 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And so you get there, you start kind of prepping for the day. You do the your kind of crew meeting in the morning, what safety concerns if there are anything, and then when the crew goes out and starts filming, I kind of step back into my office behind my desk and kind of coordinate things over the next couple of days, whether it's logistics or kind of what's going to be happening and meal schedules and stuff like that. And a normal day in the industry is usually about 12 hours. So, and that's just like your on-set time. And so I'm usually up, or on set 1 or 2 hours before that, and 1 or 2 hours after. So it's a pretty long day, but it's when you kind of see everything that you shot during that day, it is incredibly rewarding.
Yeah.
It's so much fun.
What are some of the skills that you use in your field?
I would say probably one of the biggest things is leadership and learning how to actually like lead in a creative aspect, because it's kind of different from anything that any other sort of kind of managerial role. Because when you're working with creative people, sometimes you have to keep people inspired and keep people kind of what the end result, the goal is. So that's a big thing. And also being very well organized and having to always kind of see the bigger picture.
Yeah.
I'm not looking at just the day that we're shooting. I'm looking sometimes a couple of days out or like a week out.
Yeah.
Making sure that everything's going to run smoothly.
Yeah. You're the planning guy.
Yeah, exactly.
Is there any particular equipment that you use?
So I use besides my computer, there are a couple of industry-specific editing budgeting and scheduling programs that I use. One is called Gorilla, the other one is called Movie Magic. And they're specifically like for, scheduling a production, figuring out what your budget's going to be, and making sure all of that is kind of
Help makes it easier too, probably.
Yeah.
What are the working hours like?
Long, very, very long. I think the longest day that I had was 22 hours.
And I wouldn't want to do that. Way too long.
Yeah, we actually,
right?
yeah, because I got to set at 10 a.m. and then we, had to kind of help prep the set all afternoon, and then we shot overnight, and then we wrapped at 8 a.m. the next morning was when I actually left set. So it was a very, very long day. Slept for, a good day and a half after that recovery, and then you're kind of right back to it.
Is there a lot of collaboration in this field?
Oh, absolutely. The industry kind of just revolves around, collaboration. And a lot of people think like a director, like even though a film director like is the creative head and the vision of the crew and is in charge of everything creatively, there are people, like the production designer, the cinematographer, the gaffer who is in charge of lighting, the wardrobe people, and if you have makeup effects, it's like you have this kind of core group of people that you're just, collaborating with literally like on a daily basis throughout the day, like making creative decisions, and somebody will throw, kind of something out, and the director will, say yay or nay or that. And that suggestion might get them thinking in a different direction, and it's like you're collaborating almost every single day sometimes for, months on end, even before you actually get to set and start filming.
Nice. So, what brought you into movie production?
I liked to do animation when I was in high school, stop motion animation and art growing up a lot. So I've always loved movies. I kind of wanted to be an actress for a while, and then that didn't work out. I like being behind the camera. But I did all the art stuff, and so when I got on set with him, helping him out, I started dressing sets, and then other students would ask me to dress their sets. And I love putting all the pieces together and kind of making a world.
Kind of be creative.
Yeah.
For the second question, I think you said this before, but did you have any other type of schooling at all, or teaching?
Yeah, that pretty much was it, is learning on the job, like learning as I go. I didn't go to college. I took some college classes in art and everything, but mostly like self-taught, and a lot of it's learning on set. Like I wish I had some production designer to learn under, but maybe in the future. But yeah,
Most of it's just experience.
It's experience, yeah.
For those that don't know, what exactly goes into producing design?
Production design.
Yeah.
Well, you start with the director and the project, and they come to you. They give you the script. You break it down, figure out where you're shooting, what stuff is going to need for that set, what props you're going to need. Sometimes you do wardrobe, especially on independent films. Even though I don't like doing wardrobe, I'd rather leave that to a costume designer. Yeah. But then you put it together day of, and then you take it all down. So, yeah.
Can you tell us about what your day is, how he did earlier?
Yeah, so I wake up pretty early. Sometimes I'm there the day before we shoot if we need more prep time to dress a set. So putting up all of the, curtains or changing light, or not lights, but, practical lighting or putting the props on set. Sometimes I'm there the day before. Other than that, I'm up really, really early and we dress the set. We kind of hang out in between shots to make sure that if we have to reset something, we can reset it. Sometimes we're ahead on the next scene that they're going to shoot, and we're dressing that set while they're filming in that one. And then once they get to the next set that we dress, we go back to the other set and take everything down. So it's like set up, take down.
Set up, take down.
Yeah, and kind of go through the day like that.
Who does oh, my bad. What type of skills do you use in your work, in your everyday life? You say skills you need.
Definitely. I mean, like you said, leadership, especially if you're leading a team, art department. Creative problem solving is good because there's a lot of times on set they don't have a prop, or they need to hang something a certain way, and you have to kind of figure that out on the fly. So flexibility is one, and just kind of having a creative problem solving.
This last question you kind of already answered. We'll be going to our ending questions, which she has a few for you, and so do I.
Okay, cool.
What has been your favorite project you have worked on?
Just one.
Yeah, one of you guys.
Well, I know that I liked, I did a feature a couple years ago. It was my first feature. It was very, very tiring, but it was fun, and it was all night shoots for 2 weeks straight. It was all night in LA, so I got there at 5 p.m. I would drive home at 5 a.m. and lots of blood and, it was a horror movie at night in LA, so that one was really fun. I don't recommend that you see the movie, but I recommend that you see it. Legally, I can't. No, I'm just kidding. Sorry, go ahead.
The neat thing about hers is actually it did get theatrical distribution, and I think right now it's sitting
in Redbox. Yeah.
So, pretty neat.
Right. Yeah, so.
I think my favorite one so far is a little film festival piece called "A Little Part of You." It was kind of really a simple project to produce. For me,
He got an airport.
I did. And I say that because, like, as a producer, sometimes I kind of like challenging myself.
Mm-hmm.
And the director was like, "Hey, I want an airport." And in the film industry, like, an airport is sometimes really hard to get and sometimes really, really expensive. Like, you can spend, tens of thousands of dollars if you're a large-scale production just for one day at an airport. And so actually having to kind of coordinate everything between 5 different people, from like city officials to like airport officials, and getting people to talk to each other, I was actually able to kind of land a location at the Ontario airport for $400 for the day, which if I hadn't put in the work, we could easily have spent, $4 or $5 grand.
Yeah.
So that then, seeing that in the actual like final film was something I was really incredibly proud of.
It took all your time to do that, probably.
Yeah, getting
He's on the phone.
on the
For
phone,
2 weeks.
on the phone, literally almost throughout the day, every single day for about 2 weeks, trying to get there.
Yeah. Can you talk about one of the most challenging things you had to overcome?
Getting an airport.
Which one?
Actually, something that was a little bit more recent. About a year ago, we were filming a short film called "Stuck in the Middle with Hugh," and figuring out how to cram, a larger kind of production schedule into 3 days of shooting, and figuring out like, oh hey, so we're going to, we have to film this scene, and we have to jump to this location that's like 30 minutes away, and then we have to kind of jump back, and it's longer days, but trying to figure out like how to do everything kind of logistically was, I would say, one of the more challenging things I've had to do.
Are there?
You wanna?
Sorry.
Oh, no, it's okay. Yeah, no, one of the more challenging things that I had to do recently was a film that was set with a virtual reality machine, and we had to make everything kind of like light up and work. So we had to like strap an iPad to it and, put little buttons in it and lights and everything like that. So we had to make everything kind of turn on at the same time, lights and turn off at the same time. So that's really like someone else's. I had lots of help from a production assistant on that one, but it was kind of challenging figuring that one out. So, sorry.
I'm really sorry. Are there any hats or roles that you play in the film industry?
Like other roles as opposed to what we do? Yeah, sometimes I will be just set dresser. Sometimes I'll be an assistant. I did co-produce some films with him, so I got to know that part of the industry. It's really good to just know other departments and what they do, so that way you know how to work with them and talk to them.
You kind of understand them.
Yeah, yeah, because everybody has to collaborate pretty closely. So.
And for me, it's like sometimes I will step down from an actual like kind of leadership role as a producer and do more. I would say not lower level, but like say be what's called a production coordinator, which is helping the producer to actually, make things happen throughout the day, or step back and be an assistant director, which kind of helps run the set schedule kind of day to day. And so even though they're lower level, they're still under a producer, so it's also nice to kind of be in the trenches with that, those types of roles to better understand, how things run, from a more kind of practical on-set standpoint. And it really helps kind of when I'm a producer.
Yeah. And for our last question, what do you have to say for someone who wants to get into the film industry at all?
I would say the biggest thing is that, like, right now, kind of just start making films, pick up a video camera, start developing, it's like grab a couple of friends and go out and just shoot something. I was actually fortunate enough to sit in an interview with Ron Howard, and that's one of the things that he said. He's like, just do it, just get out there and just start making your own content. And the other thing is that like a lot of people kind of think that you have to have like a 4-year degree or a master's degree to get into the film industry. And while I'm not saying that going to a 4-year college isn't good. Sometimes it's good for people. It's it's how kind of you learn. But the biggest thing is kind of if you're starting out in the industry, it's like get on sets as a an intern or a production assistant, and learning kind of the day-to-day and how things run on an actual professional set is going to be sometimes more valuable than kind of sitting in a classroom. Whereas those things are good, but getting that
I
kind
think,
of
like you said
tangible
earlier, like meeting people.
exactly.
I mean, and I would say for wanting to get into the field to just try stuff. Like, I mean, try directing, try writing, try producing, try painting a prop, try being a PA, try running and getting coffee. Like, make no job beneath you, because
You never know what you might like.
You never know what you might like, yeah, and you never know where you're going to be further up the road, and you're going to remember doing that job, and you'll know how to treat somebody in that position, which you should always treat them all great anyway, but, just to not be afraid to try something that's not your job, because you might like it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Because when I initially went into film school, I was like, hey, I want to be a cinematographer. I want to be behind a camera. I want to operate a camera. And, I kind of, I want to direct like that, that type of stuff. And then, producing my own thesis film, it was really kind of when I learned like, hey, I kind of like producing, like, not necessarily down in the trenches, being, kind of creative and behind the camera, but more of a kind of a large scale stuff. So I definitely agree with that. Like, try everything.
Yeah.
You never know, what you're gonna like. I've seen people go from, just being in kind of an on-set assistant to like getting in front of a camera and be like, hey, I really like acting, so now I'm gonna go pursue acting classes.
It's really cool.
So
I think that's all we have for today. For everybody, thanks for watching and everything. I'd like to thank Danielle and DJ for coming. For information, you can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Talion High Desert Academy, right? Okay, thank you, and goodbye.
Yeah.